I 23F am living in an apartment with my partner that is essentially the bottom floor of a 2-story house, and my landlord 50F occupies the upstairs apartment. Over the past couple weeks my landlord has been popping down to fix my door, because the plate in the doorway fell out. The other day, I had just gotten home from work when she texted asking if she could come down to finish the repair, so I told her yes. I went inside and decided to do some cleaning up while waiting for her since I knew I was going away for the weekend and I'd honestly rather do the cleaning and prep for my dinner before getting showered and clean and comfy. Landlord showed up while I was dealing with my recycling. I let her in, then went back to breaking down all the boxes and stacking cans inside each other so I could stuff as much in one bag as possible before taking it out. Landlord and I made some small talk about our jobs and upcoming vacations and stuff. She cracked a joke about how I must want to get showered off and clean from my job. I work long shifts at a somewhat messy job, and I said I was fine and wanted to get some chores done first. I kept breaking down boxes and chatting. She finished up, and as she was leaving she asked me point blank if I didn't trust her to be in the apartment alone. I was honestly really surprised by the question and asked why she'd think that, and she told me that nobody breaks down boxes for their recycling at home and that it was clear I was just finding excuses to keep her in my line of sight. I laughed because I thought at this point she was making a joke and said that I like to break down boxes to save room and make less trips. She then brought up a previous situation from a few months back where she had to come down a couple times with her boyfriend to make some minor repairs in the bathroom, and it took a while, like a week, for them to find the right time because their work schedules and my partner's work schedules don't line up super well, and partner and I had made it clear when trying to set a date that one of us would prefer to be present. She said me messing around in the kitchen the entire time she was there fixing the door made it seem like my partner and I didn't trust her to be alone in the apartment and thought she would snoop and that we looked like we had something to hide. I told her I kind of understood where she was coming from, but that my partner and I just like to be present in case we're needed and also like to be aware of what is changing and how when repairs are made. Landlord just shrugged and said she feels a little iced out in her own home and hopes we can be more neighborly in the future. I said okay, I hope so too, and she left looking kind of upset. This was Thursday and I still feel so weird about it. I told my partner, who thinks landlord was out of pocket, but I'm wondering if maybe there's something I'm missing. Comment 1. You hold dear in your home, I would suppose, valuable or not. Why does she care if you're there while she fixes stuff? That's the bigger question. I guess she has a key to your place anyway. That conversation would make me get some nanny cams. Comment 2. NTA. Landlord sounds like a weirdo. Nobody breaks down boxes for recycling at home? Then where are you supposed to do it? Very bizarre comment. So what if you stay in the apartment? She should see that a safeguard for herself as well is a tenant is present, they can't later accuse the landlord of theft. Comment 3. NTA. The landlord is out of line. If you want to supervise you have the right to, but that wasn't what you were doing. Just living your life in your own space is well within your rights. Story 2. I, 30M, recently had a minor falling out with my sister, 28F, and I'm not sure if I overstepped or if she's being too sensitive. She had her first baby 2 months ago. I've been really happy for her. I'm not super into kids myself, but I get that it's a huge deal for her. She and her husband are both very baby brain right now. Every conversation somehow leads back to diapers, naps, feeding schedules, etc. So last week, my girlfriend and I hosted a small get-together at our place. It was mostly friends from work and a few people from our gym, pretty casual, just drinks, snacks, music. I invited my sister and her husband too, but told her upfront it was going to be more of a chill adult night and probably not the best place to bring the baby. I assumed they'd get a sitter or just one of them would come. They showed up with the baby. I was a little surprised but tried to be polite. Within like 15 minutes, the baby started fussing, and my sister ended up sitting on the couch nursing him with a blanket over her, while her husband hovered around awkwardly trying to calm him down. It totally changed the vibe. The music got turned down, A couple people left early, and the rest of us were just kind of keeping our distance. It felt less like a party and more like a weird family visit. After they left, early, because the baby was fussy, I texted her the next day and said I wished she had respected the vibe of the night and either come without the baby or just skipped it altogether. I said I didn't want to sound harsh, but it kind of threw off the whole thing and made people uncomfortable. She replied saying she felt embarrassed and like I was shaming her for being a mom. She said she didn't think it would be a big deal and that if people were uncomfortable, that was on them. Now she's barely responding to my messages and told our mom that I humiliated her over nothing. I don't think I was out of line for being honest. It wasn't a baby-friendly event and I gave her a heads up. I didn't yell or make a scene, I just told her how it came across. Comment 1. Speaking as a mom, always be upfront and blunt about no kids allowed. If people don't like it, they don't have to come, family, friends, or whoever. You were being nice and trying to be delicate, which I understand, but you can't. It's your party, place, whatever, and you have a right to decide if you want kids there. I always ask straight up if it's unclear. NTA though. Comment 2. I totally understand wanting to say it in a less confrontational way with probably best, but it seems like your sister is someone you're going to have to be super clear and specific with about things like this. Some people see any wiggle room as an opportunity to just do what they want, rather than considering others and the context of what is actually being said. Comment 3. NTA. Mother of 3, but for some people you must be precise. When my babies were little, we took turns when these types of events happened. We each deserved a break. I would go for a shorter time in their first 6 months because I exclusively breastfed. I would never have thought to bring my baby to a chill adult get-together unless they asked me to. Story 3. My stepdaughter is not a good driver. She was not a good driver when she was a teen and certainly not as an adult. When she was first learning to drive, she did very fast hard brakes. She repeatedly left her car's lights on or left her car unlocked. When she first got her permit at 16, we gave her 2 rules. We would help buy her first car, but she'd be on her own for car insurance, gas, and upkeep. If she wanted a car, she needed to be the sole caretaker of it, and it was on her to ensure she was taking good care of it. Her brothers had the same rules. 3 months into her being 17, she got in her first accident. It was her first time driving in the ice and she slid. Her car hit another car. It was not a serious accident, but it caused roughly $1,000 in damages. Her car drove for another 2 months, but the transmission went out eventually. She bought it at 160-ish miles, though none of us were surprised it didn't last very long. When she was 19, she was in another car accident. While on the highway, a semi-truck tried to merge while riding next to her. She sped up, and during it, another car tried to merge right as she sped up. The car was totaled. Outside of whiplash and minor wrist injuries, she was okay. Because of this accident, we made her get her own insurance because our payment went up. 3 weeks ago, she was involved in another accident. Again on the highway, she was passing an on-ramp and a car coming on hydroplaned and lost control of a ladder in the back of its pickup truck. It again totaled her car. It could not leave the scene and we had to get her to bring her back to her college. The other driver broke his collarbone and she has whiplash, a shoulder injury, and some facial damage that should heal in the next bit. The police officer told her that it was not her fault, but obviously we have to wait for the insurance to make that call. Once she got home from the ER, she asked for us to help her purchase a new car. She said that it's not practical for her to constantly walk everywhere until she could afford a new car. She makes $21 an hour as a CMA at a nursing home, so it won't take her long to buy a cheap car. From her apartment, she is about 1.5 miles from college, 0.25 miles from a grocery store, and 4 miles from her job. I think for the time being, she can walk, ask for rides from friends, or use an app. We don't have public transportation, but lots of sidewalks. She can walk the entirety from her apartment to class, most to a store, and on and off from her job. My husband wants us to purchase a new car and have her pay us back. I don't think this is the right move. To date, the only time we have ever helped buy a car is when they all started driving, and we only paid half. She only saved 2K for her first car, so we only gave 4K for a new car. One of her brothers saved up 10K, so we gave 10K. If we start doing this now, we will walk down a very expensive walk. I have gotten mixed reactions from others. Comment 1. I don't think it's in a whole move to lend her the money and she can pay y'all back, if you can afford it. This is where I think YTA, reading through her list of accidents, they all seem like that, genuine accidents. Completely unrelated to her being a bad driver or leaving the lights on in her car. Which I was surprised about because the start of your post makes her seem like a terrible driver who's at fault for her crashes, yet not even Lewis Hamilton could avoid someone aquaplaning into him out of nowhere. Comment 2. You can choose freely, without obligation, whether to give or not give money, because she's an independent adult. Your list of her past accidents makes you sound resentful toward her, even though she did nothing wrong and got injured by bad luck. If you're still married to her mother, then you may get blamed for sounding so resentful. Story 4. I'm 18F, in my school's volleyball team, and we had a match scheduled for the day of my sister's 24F wedding. The game was early in the morning, the wedding would be at night, so there would be no conflict. Anyway, some relatives of ours who were in town just for the wedding heard me talking about the match and chose to go. It was their own decision. I only mentioned the game but didn't invite anybody personally. After the game, I come home. My team had won, I was excited, and some of our relatives were asking me about the team, and whether I plan to continue on playing when I'm in college, etc. My sister was already there, she chose our parents' place as her HQ, and I could instantly tell she looked upset. When we were alone, I asked her what was the problem. I thought something was wrong with the wedding planning at first, and she went out on me about how this was supposed to be her day and I made it all about me when I chose to play and when I told our family about it. I told her I can't control other people's reaction and that I didn't insist for anyone to come, but she was still upset. We couldn't continue the conversation because she was about to get her hair and makeup done. We get to her wedding and of course she had other things on her mind. But after the ceremony, I went to hug her and her husband during the party, and I told her a brief I still want to talk to you about today, but she just said now it's not the time. And that's where we are now, we didn't talk any further. Comment 1. You weren't in the wrong until the last bit when you wanted to talk about it at the party. That's where YTA. That wasn't the time to discuss anything. As it was your sister's wedding, and it was her moment to shine. Not for you to bring up what happened earlier. You should have waited until the following day to even start that conversation. Comment 2. You are fine until you mentioned it again during the reception. For that, YTA. You knew she was upset. She had let it go to enjoy the day. And you decided to bring it up while she was literally in the middle of her wedding? Really? Comment 3. ESH. If you had left it alone, instead of bringing up the argument in the middle of her reception line, you'd be NTA. But you didn't drop it, even in the middle of her big day. You are correct in that you can't control other people, and being excited about a win is cool, but you kept bringing it up. That's where you went wrong. And your sister is silly for being upset about it prior to the ceremony. Very fully justified in being upset during the celebration. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, 37M, for 8 years and have 3 children, 6,4, and 1. I had a cousin's baby shower on the same weekend my son was going to an overnight camp. I knew it would be hard on my husband to get him to the camp with the 3 children, so I arranged childcare for the youngest. I also got everything packed and put out for him for the camp. I left at 10 a.m. and the kids had ball hockey at 11:30 to 12:30 and then had to be at the camp for 6:30. The rest of the day he had nothing else to do. I asked him to give the kids a bath after ball hockey because they got muddy. At 3:30 I left the baby shower and let him know I would be back at 5:20 and to meet me at my parents' at that time, closer to the camp location. At 5:15 I text him and he said the kids were still getting dressed, so I instead had to get my mom to drive me back to the house. At this point it's already after 5:30 and the kids are just getting outside with soaking wet hair. He said he put the kids in the bath a long time ago but couldn't get them out. I exploded on him because how could he not get them out as the parent? On the way there, already late, I ask where his scout necker is, which was a requirement for identification, and he says he forgot it even though I set it out with all the stuff he was supposed to wear. He says he didn't know he wore one even though he takes him to scouts every week. Then we get there and he also forgot to bring my son's jacket or even a sweater. We are in Ontario and it's still cold here. I was so upset I didn't talk to him the whole way home. He says I'm in a hole for exploding on him and ruining our night. He says he does way more than most fathers. I am just sick and tired of having to manage everything. Planning and packing every single thing, and he is still late and things get forgotten. I asked what he did all day and he said he cleaned and tried to install a light in my son's room, but the light is sitting in the exact same spot as when I left and the house was a total mess when I got home, so I'm not sure what he did that whole time. I'm just tired of everything falling on me and still things like this happening.